The third week of March began exquisitely, with beautiful sunny weather and clear skies, and all Danes rejoiced in welcoming the spring. We threw off our coats and headed outside and felt we were one step closer to summer. The temperature reached a whopping 15 degrees Celsius one day.
So I'm cycling out to my friend Mitte's place. Actually, I have two friends called Mitte, and I have one called Mitte. So I guess that was a popular name back then. But I'm cycling out to her on this path that goes along the canal, and we're gonna go for a walk even further out. And then we're also gonna talk about knitting, because she is my fellow knitter.
I love that I have a friend who lives out there because I enjoy the bike ride and it gets me away from the city for a while. The part of town she lives in is quiet and quaint. Time seems to have stood still there, which I appreciate. We often go for walks together along the water. Sometimes we drive out of town and walk in the grounds of various manor houses. Today we saw our fisherman setting up or pulling in his nets. It seemed like a very contemplative act and so different from the city life close by. 2 hours later I cycled home in the late afternoon light. I appreciated this little excursion all the more because of a mishap a few days before. So, this is what happened to my car a little while ago. The front tire exploded just as I was about to pick up my daughter and some of her friends. In fact, they'd already gotten into the car. So, in a minute now, hopefully, I'm going to be picked up by some huge truck or other, and they're going to take my car with them and lend me another car so that I can actually get home. So that was the fail of the week. But on the plus side, the weather was great. My daughter said at least it wasn't raining. And she went and bought me a little cake before she and her friends left. And honestly, I was grateful and relieved to be able to get picked up at all. Well, the view is good from up here. And to borrow another car to get home in, which, by the way, turned out to be something of a race car. The minute I put my foot in the accelerator, the car shot away at a menacing speed. I soon realized I would get a speeding ticket if I didn't get my own car back soon. So I opted for my bike the next few days. On one little bike ride into town, I saw this jolly sight, our local priest in front of me on her bike. She baptized my youngest daughter and confirmed her 14 years later. I imagine it's something you might not see outside of Denmark or Holland. I got my car back just in time to go to my first meeting in a knitting club I've joined. As some of you know, I began knitting again a few months ago after a 20-year break, and I felt like sharing it with some live people, not just look at posts on social media. The woman who hosted the meeting has a friend who has taken in a Ukrainian woman and her 2 sons, and the woman joined us that evening while our host's husband went bowling with the 2 boys. The Ukrainian woman was called Olena, and she was really sweet. I didn't want to film, but it was so nice talking to her. She turned out to be a French teacher, and so I ended up acting as a kind of interpreter now and then. She had knitting and crocheting needles with her, which touched me, considering she would have had to choose wisely what to take with her. A few days later, I cycled over to see my friend Mitte and went for a little walk and talk with her in the tiny woods close to her house. Afterward, we discussed a book we're both reading at the moment, The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. When we felt we had made a little headway in the book, in our lives, we celebrated with a bottle of champagne. Just because. Also, it was Saturday. We felt it was okay. Which reminds me of the name of my new knitting club. It's called Drikkerstrek, which has a nice ring to it in Danish. It means drink and knit, so you get the idea, I imagine. The beautiful weather continued for a few days, and I could finally go for a walk after dinner, now that we've switched to daylight savings time. Then one morning at the end of March, I rushed outside, like I tend to do when it snows, so you'll forgive the no makeup look, I hope. When it snows in Denmark, it definitely encourages you to live in the now.
Can you believe this? I was filming here only last night and it was beautiful. There was a blue sky with just a few beautiful clouds here and there, and now it's like this. You could see far into the distance last night, and it was just one of those evenings where it looks like it's on the verge between spring and summer. Well, guess again. Today we're definitely back in winter for a spell, and this is very unusual. So it's March 30th. We haven't had snow since Christmas Eve, thereabouts. The minute you think, okay, winter's over now, it's back again. So these trees are in bloom, yet the whiteness isn't just because of the flowers now, but snow.
What an incongruous sight, the snow and the white blossoms of the trees. I thought first they were hawthorn trees, but I'm not so sure now. Maybe some of you know. The month of March this year has turned out to be a month of records. We had the most hours of sunshine ever, and the least amount of rain ever. It seems to me the weather is breaking records all the time now. The reaction around the country was divided between disappointment and excitement. One weather guy announced on TV that, like me, he thought it was wonderful that we finally had a bit of real winter, the first since Christmas. There is something about this kind of weather that just transports me to Narnia or something. It's partly the purity of the color, and partly the fact that the snow muffles all sounds. The world goes a little more quiet for a while, and I for one need that every now and then. More often than not, actually.
I have a feeling I may be the only Dane who's delighted about this, apart from all the children obviously, but I think most adults were probably looking so much forward to spring that they're feeling mighty cheated now, but you know, it's around the corner and I really do think this is lovely. Can you see this? I mean, look at that. Look at those snowflakes. They're huge. Sort of competing with those white flowers on the tree. It's just magnificent. Also, as a Dane, I appreciate that this is still possible, given the times that we live in.
So I will leave you now with these, to me at least, beautiful and final scenes of winter this time round. By the time you see this, it will probably be gone again, but at least it was here. Thank you so much for watching.